Good morning, everybody. How are you? Good. So today, as you see, we are going to discuss the aesthetics, the elements of beauty in the poem. We discussed last time. If you remember last time, we discussed the political or the socio-political context of the poem. And today, we want to talk more, to be more specific, to talk in specialized language, if you remember. So what we have to do today is like to isolate certain aesthetic elements, and then later, you might connect the aesthetic elements with something public, okay? I know that you might have some difficulty in certain terms. I know that you were introduced to terms like alliteration, rhyme, rhythm, assonance, paradox. However, you have not been introduced to some terms like simile, metaphor, pun, metonymy. These are like general tropes, and they are easy. So, and sometimes we use them in our daily language. So if I come here and I say, it is an oven outside. Yes, this seems to be nonsensical. So when I say it's an oven outside, in fact, I'm comparing like outside to an oven. So nobody is expecting that I'm going to bake the bread, So there is hidden agreement among speakers of certain language to accept the fact that we can use this metaphoric language. So now the simile, what is a simile? Like if I say a simile, so what is a simile? A simile is like a metaphor, but it differs. So if I say, for example, my brother is like a lion. This is a simile. It means I'm comparing, my brother to a lion. And, this happens in poetry. Like Palestine is like a jewel. Jerusalem is the heart of Palestine. Look how wonderful it. Jerusalem is like the heart of Palestine. This is a simile. We use like, as, these prepositions, or sometimes than. Sometimes for kind of disparagement, I might say, the enemy soldiers are nothing more than rabbits. When Gaddafi wanted to describe the revolutionists, he said what? They are like mice, Of course, that was a kind of disparagement. Now, we might at some stage tell you what happens when we use figurative language, a simile, or a metaphor. But can you bring, a simile of your own? Like you can talk about your mother, brother, sister, your teacher, whatever. Can you? Can you? Yes. Give me one. Okay. Yes.
My daughter is like a rose.
Yeah. Very good. My daughter is like a rose. Wow. Okay.
My mother is like an angel.
My mother is like an angel. Okay.
My house is like a battlefield.
My house is like a battlefield. Wow. Good. More? Yes?
Palestine like heaven and earth.
Excellent. Palestine is like heaven and earth. Okay, in all these similes, we compared something to something else. Now, in Arabic, we know what is like this. In English, there is a critic called I.A. Richard. He said, in the comparison, usually there is something called the tenor, like this, the thing we, compare to the thing compared to. For example, when I say, my, daughter, this is the tenor. My daughter, or let's say my brother, this is the tenor. And, and a lion is what we call a vehicle. What is a vehicle? It's a carriage. So it is supposed, like in a metaphor like this, or a simile, that, the vehicle carries all the meanings, inherent in, in it, like to the tenor. So what I mean by meanings inherent, I mean connotations, implications. So when I say my brother is like a lion, so the word lion has its connotations. What are these connotations? You know connotations? Implications. What are the implications? Yes? Courage. Good. Yeah. Power. Agility. Like what else? Strength. Dauntiness. Like if you are daunty, like means like you are majestic, because the lion is the king, So all these connotations are transferred by the vehicle from the vehicle to the tenor. So this is a very brief way, of talking about something in terms of another. The same thing happens in, like the metaphor. The metaphor is exactly like, like the simile, but we don't have like. So simply I say, my daughter is a rose. My daughter is a rose. My sister is a moon. So here, like we have metaphor. Metaphor. Like because we are comparing, but we don't have like or as. Some metaphors, like, we don't use the vehicle itself, but we use a characteristic of the vehicle. For example, the moon shines. So you don't say, my sister is a moon, but you say, my sister shines at night. She shines very bright. Like this is poetry. Here, like there is a metaphor. There is a metaphor. Like I used, or a characteristic, instead of the vehicle, I used a characteristic of the vehicle. And instead of saying, my daughter is like a rose, my daughter, smells lovely. Smells lovely. Or the fragrance of my daughter is, like a fragrant water, You see what I mean? This is what happens in the simile and the metaphors. There is transference of meaning. I'm just glossing this because you are going to study this in detail, but because we need today to explore the aesthetics in our poem, Whoso Lost to Hand, I just like let you know quickly what these tropes mean exactly. There is a pun, pun. What is a pun? A pun. What is a pun? Yes.
Words with a similar sound but different meaning.
Yes. Words with a similar sounds with different meanings. Let me give you this pun. It's like a riddle. 7 days without food makes 1 week. Do we have a pun?
Yes.
What is the pun? Huh? Week. Week means Either, like 7 days together, or weak means very feeble. Okay, good. Let me give you, another, pun. I say, a teacher is asking the student or the students, how can you make a Swiss roll? How can you make a Swiss roll? And, one of the students was saying, yes, sir, yes, sir. And he said, by pushing him down the hill. Very funny, isn't it? Because the student did not understand a Swiss roll as a cake, but rather as, a man from Switzerland. We pun a lot, When I was coming to your class, somebody was saying, okay, let her get into the left because she is pregnant. In Arabic, we say hamil. So two of the students say, they were not pregnant, and we are, hamil. And quickly, we said, okay, they are carrying their bags. So, the word hamil, it gave the two meanings. So I think it is easy, But let me give you this joke to exemplify the pun. And I think I included in your reader some jokes, some, proverbs, some sick humor, in order to show you how sometimes, like, literary language is there in, in these proverbs and these, I would call them literature with a small L. So a waiter, a man has just gone to a restaurant, and he was served his soup. So he looked into the soup, and he found some coins. And he complained. He said, waiter, there are some coins in my soup. And the waiter said, told him, yes, sir, because you asked for some change in your meals. Do you know what I mean? Change. Good. Like change and change. And this is an example of pun. And I think in Arabic, you have a lot of puns. You're familiar with them. Let me just give you another trope, which is personification. Personification, like you are assigning a human characteristic, to something non-human. For example, if you want, if you want to express your sadness or whatever, you say, my disc is crying. So disc is inanimate, but you are assigning an animate or animate feature to it, and this is called personification. It is called personification. Yes, you can say the dogs are talking, it's a personification. And a last thing I want to give you, we might find in the poem called apostrophe. Apostrophe. What is apostrophe? Like you are calling, you are addressing somebody who's not known. Okay. Good. Now I thought this would be, indispensable, very important, before we again look at the poem, because today, as I said, we need together to look at the aesthetics, the figurative language, the alliteration, the metaphors, and so on. And perhaps later, and this is what we are going to do next time, is like to link, the specialized language with the public language. Okay? So, let's see. Did you have another go on this poem? Huh? Who's a lost to hand? I know where is an eind. Yes. Let me just look at this first line. Do you think, is there any other figurative language? Any figurative language? Yes?
I noticed using metaphor for describing the beautiful woman as a
Very good. Excellent. Yes, you are right. He's comparing, a woman to a deer. A deer is a gazelle.
Yeah.
A deer, is a gazelle. A very, beautiful, cute. So yes, he's comparing, a woman to a deer, a female deer. Now, we might think, what are the connotations of the word deer? Beauty, softness, delicacy. What else? A deer. Have you ever been to a zoo or a national park?
Yeah.
When you go, deers are a little bit vulnerable. You know what's mean vulnerable?
Yeah.
They just,
Fever.
they're feeble. They escape quickly. If you just look like this, they would panic. Okay? But they are very, wonderful to look at. Very, feminine. However, they are, unpredictable. Unpredictable. You don't know whether they are going like to come toward you or to escape you. You don't know. They are unpredictable. Good. Okay, so he compares like this lady to a deer. Good. What do we have in this line?
Also, metaphor and hunt.
Yeah.
Love as hunt.
Yes, so he's comparing the act of falling in love is like hunting. And like hunting, what is hunting? What are like the connotations of hunting? Like the word hunting. It is something, again, which depends on fortune. It depends on luck. It involves a lot of efforts. It involves a lot of disappointment. Because, I used to hunt birds when I was young. One day I was very happy because I hunted a lot. I just like, but the other day I was like disappointed because nothing, I hunted nothing. So, you see, these are the feelings, the sentiments that are associated with hunting. Good. But don't you see there is a pun in the first line? Who's lost to hunt? I know where is an eye. Yeah? Ein. Ein, it sounds like end. Ein, it sounds like end. Who's lost to hunt? I know where is an eye. It sounds similar to the word end. So you could possibly say this is a pun. And like if the poet says, I tell him where he can find a very disappointing end, this is, what I can tell him. Okay. But, like if we look here, what is the poet? Whom is the poet addressing?
Others hunters.
Yeah, like unknown people, mainly, men who are not there. So this is a kind of apostrophe. Who's lost to hunt? I know where is an eye. But why is he addressing? What is the significance of this, apostrophe? Why is he addressing them? Do you know why? Like, why is he addressing people? It's a personal experience, isn't it? Like, so he's trying like to make them share his personal experience. So he's moving from personal to public. But again, we might ask, why is, or why does he want to share with them this experience? Now, yes?
Maybe to justify himself as
Excellent, yes. To justify, to exonerate himself. Because, in the poem, somebody might say, hey, you are a liar, You are not true. It is you who failed the woman. It is you who failed the deer. But here, right from the very beginning, he said, no, it's not me to blame. I'm not to blame. You see? And I'm inviting everybody like to make sure that it is not me, but it is her who failed all this love. Good. Okay. More, but as for me, alas, I may no more. Like, if we look at the word alas, like, what are the semantic connotations, you know, or the connotations of the word alas? What does it mean, alas? Unfortunately. So alas is associated with what? With the feeling of frustration, disappointment, depression. Alas. So we might at some point to look at the word choice in the poem, you know, which is also an aesthetic element. Alas, I may no more. I may no more. And like, look here, may more, may more. Like the M sound, it is repeated. And if you go down, the vain travail hath, where it means, so, me, so sore. And like, in the fifth line, yet may I by no means, in the fifth line, if you look, yet may I by no means my word mine. The M sound like this. It makes alliteration. And this alliteration, you know, like conveys a feeling of what? Complaint and suffering, because like somebody who's complaining. You know, when we are in pain or agony, we complain in this way. Good. And I think also you have alliteration in so sore. So sore. Like, and this alliteration also like shows how better, how acrid, you know, his experience is. You know, so sore. Like when sometimes we have some chills, you say, oh my God, so sore, you know, so painful, so, you know, so sore. I think it is, you know, alliteration, which has to do with his sense of, you know, I don't want like to link, but okay, sometimes you feel that you should link, but I'm leaving this for you to link. So today, we're going to do it in a very traditional way. I don't want you to do this in the exam, to say, hey, there's a metaphor, there's a simile. No. What you have to do is to link. Okay? Good.
So
Yes.
in the first line is alliteration.
There is?
In the first line is
Alliteration.
alliteration.
Yeah.
And one.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, very good. There is, who's the last hand? I know. Where's a nine? You know, the H, you know, is not like sound, you know, it is a mute. So I wouldn't say, you know, alliteration in a full sense, because it doesn't. But you can say the vain trouble, like vain trouble. Like you see here, the V, you know, these fricative sounds require some efforts. And when he was talking about efforts, labor, you know, he wanted to remind us that he put some tremendous efforts. Like he fretted. He, you know, was worn out when he said vain travail. Like this sounds like he just was fretting. He did tremendous efforts. So this cluster shows how, you know, exhausting his hunting experience was. Okay, good. Among them that farthest cometh behind. Yet may I, by no means, my wedded mind drove from the deer. Like here, he's asking, you know, a question. It's a question, like what we call it rhetorical question. Like, what do you want to say? Like, he is going to justify himself. May I, do you think, like, I quit that because of no reason? As you see, like the deer is, this metaphor is sustained. The whole metaphor is sustained. And when we have sustained metaphor, I mean sustained continued, you know, from the first line, and the hunting, which is, you know, parallel. So whenever we have sustained metaphors, sustained similes, like we call this what? Allegory. And last time I think, you know, we knew why he opted for allegory, because it was not safe for him to speak bluntly, you know, to speak, you know, in a very overt manner about that relationship. Okay, but as chief leaf of 4, again we have cluster of F sound, and F sound, if you remember, they have to do with the feeling of, you know, a virgin, the feeling of reluctance. You are aversive, you don't like, you know what's mean aversive, you know? You are repulsive, you are disgusted, okay? No, sometimes in Arabic we say if, you know, like, you know, if sound. So I think here, fainting I follow, I leave off, therefore. So look here, off. But again, I leave off, therefore. Look here, like at the alliteration, you know, leave, therefore. So, because he's taking a decision. And when you take a decision, you should show how decisive you are. Again, like this fricative shows like his decision of like giving up. I leave off, therefore, since in a net, like here there's 7, it is since. In a net, I seek to hold the wind. Oh wow, what a lovely metaphor is this. What is the wind? What is the wind? Huh? What is the wind? Okay, but like, don't you think here that we have a metaphor? What is he comparing? Who's the wind? Yes? Hannah? The lady. The lady is like the wind. So let's explore the connotation of the word wind. What is the wind? Like, yes? Fast. Excellent. What do you mean escape? Like the wind, yes, like it doesn't remain, it is always moving. Okay? Unattainable. Sometimes, you know, you cannot attain, you cannot touch it. Okay, what else? It's impossible to touch. What else?
Maybe strong.
Strong? Yeah, sometimes strong. I mean, dangerous. Because, you know, if you have read Ode to the West Wind, like, or, you know, Shelley, like, Ode to the West Wind, like, the West Wind was a power of destruction. And it was a power of creativity. So, like, the wind, you know, is a little bit dangerous, like, you know. It has a sweeping effects. So all these, I think most of the connotations here are a little bit negative. Okay? Okay, good. So I think here we have to understand, like, you know, how impossible the hunt is, how frustrating it is. Because if you are trying, imagine, like, this image, somebody is trying, like, to do what? To catch the wind in a net. So what kind of frustration, you know, would result? Like, it was like a frustration after frustration. So I think frustration, disappointment are key words, you know, here in the experience of the poet. Was lost to hunt, I know I put him out of doubt. Again, we didn't talk about out, doubt, oh, you know, all these vowels have to do with his complaint. We said last time, this is a kind of courtly love. And in the courtly love, you know, the poet, you know, either like sings, celebrates the traits of his beloved, or he complains because his favor or his love is rejected, is turned down. Okay? As well as may spend his time in vain and graven with diamonds in letters plain. Now, graven, like carved in diamonds. I think the word diamonds here is significant. It's a metonymy. You know, metonymy, you mention something to mean something else. We didn't talk about the word metonymy. Metonymy, it is like, in Arabic we call it kinaya, metonymy. You know, if you have a problem, me to no me. Metonymy, sorry, is the spelling. There is Yes. Metonymy, it is this kind of use something to mean something else. For example, I say, last night Gaza celebrated or rejoiced. I don't mean Gaza, like the city and the walls, but I mean the inhabitant. But again, the word diamond, written, like, it is a metonymy of what? It is a metonymy of beauty, richness, wealth, power, and if we are like, if we go back, because, at 16th century, like, the social structure of the 16th century was, like, governed by this hierarchy, like the high class, and, there was no middle class. So again, class division is in the background. This metonymy shows the disparity. The disparity, you know what's mean disparity? In the social level between like the poet and the lady. Because in courtly love, the poet should be, from a lower class, and the lady is from a higher class. The poet should be abject. You know what's mean abject? Very mean, very poor, very impoverished. He should complain and complain. Good. Okay, let's go back to the poem. And graven with diamonds in letter plain, there is written, her fair neck round about. I don't know, like, again here, this is like reference to her beauty, fair neck. But, I don't know, roundabout, what is a roundabout? Yeah, it's a warning. Yeah, it's a statement. Yeah. Yeah, she's a property. She's a property. Yes, she's a property. I mean, the metonymy shows like this lady is like a property owned by the king, but I don't know, like roundabout, if you go to the Gulf, in the Gulf, what they say about, like this is what we call in Arabic a duwar. Huh? They say roundabout. Something circular, roundabout. Roundabout, roundabout. So she's like this. Roundabout, it means she's not straight. She is, like changeable. She's going in this movement, which is very, which makes you dizzy, So if you run after her, like, you will be dizzy. So it's very significant pun here. And then, like the statement, no li me tanger for Caesar I am. Again, this is Latin. And the, like the poets, of that century, like used like Latin language to, add more, like, sophisticated, like this makes their style more sophisticated. No li tanger for Caesar I am. I'm property, this is like very, it is complete underestimation. But this is what was written because, we know that Anne Pauline, was supposed to be like the next queen. And the last line, it has what? Paradox. And while for to hold, though I seem tame. So this paradox conveys with itself the doubleness of this lady. Ostensibly, means seemingly, she is, tame, naive, like I seem tame, but in fact, she is wild. She is not attainable. And I think, this, here, the last line sums up the whole sonnet by, stressing a possible theme, which is the seeming and reality. She seems to be tame, but in fact, she's not. Okay. So far, these are, some of the aesthetic elements. I wouldn't say all of them because we are still at the beginning of the course, and I don't want to spend the whole time just like talking about the aesthetics in one poem. Last time, if you remember, we talked about the form, and we said this is a Petrarchan sonnet. And the Petrarchan sonnet has a rhyme scheme. I don't know, like it was clear for you or not, but the rhyme scheme, as you see here, it is, A, let me just A, B, B, A, B, B, A, and then we have a new one, C, D, D, C, and E, E. Now, this is the rhyme scheme of this sonnet. This is the rhyme scheme of this sonnet. Now, originally, the rhyme scheme of the Petrarchan sonnet does not have this EE. So it was supposed to be C, D, D, and then C, D, D. But here, like, there is a shift. Like, this is a shift. Now, we have two parts, but he's trying to say this is a couplet. And I think, when you have two lines rhyming the same, we call it couplet. And I think the couplet with Shakespeare, the couplet will acquire more importance because it's going to be like the most important part in the sonnet. Okay, now, why are we looking? I want, when you discuss the sonnet, to mention in the octave what is happening. In the octave, the poet is trying, for example, to exonerate himself. Exonerate, to remove all the blame. Like to exonerate or vindicate yourself, like you remove the blame. And like here, he wants to exonerate himself, or in the octave, he lists the reasons why he gave up, and in the sister, like he gave his resolution, like why he should not be interested in the hunt anymore. Now, this is for today, but I'm not sure whether you have any question before I assign you something else for next time. Yes, please.
Why did the poet use this Italian language?
Uh,
Signification.
Okay, I told you, during that time, it was part of the culture to show that you are erudite. You know what's mean erudite? Educated. So erudite. You have to show some erudition. You have to show that you are a courtier who is well versed in languages, in English, in Latin, in French, and so on. And using. It was part of the culture during that time to use some languages. Even when they were writing letters, sometimes the introduction was in French, the conclusion was in French, but the body was, in English. Good. Do you have any question? Okay. I think the poem is becoming easier now. Okay. And I think I trust you because I see that most of you are brilliant. I trust next time you will have the ability to connect between, the specialized language and the public. But for this purpose, I need you to prepare part one of the critical plan. Part one of the critical plan, what kind of questions? Because what I need to give you some training how to start writing about the theme of the poem, how to elaborate, and how to set a plan for, a critical account of any poem, not this poem, but this poem could be given as an example. Okay? Thank you for listening to me. I hope you enjoyed today's class. I'll see you in other classes. Yes?